Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday, TGIF. Man, we got a crowd in already. I don't. Everybody's up early this morning. Good to see everybody. We've got a lot to talk about, so I'm not even going to waste any time. We are going to jump right in. Good morning, and welcome to the 70th episode of FinTech Insider, the Breakfast Show US. We have been doing this for 70 days. We started this the beginning of April. Have done this 5 days a week. Just as a heads up, starting next week, we're only going to move to Wednesdays. So David Brer, our CEO, will be doing the morning show at like 3:30 in the morning, I think it is, Eastern Standard Time. So he'll do these Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. I will continue to do the show on Wednesdays, same time at 10:30. So make sure you keep showing up, everybody. Importantly, let us know where you're at in the world. Let's really get some coverage. Let's find out where everybody's at in the comments section. We'll make sure we give you a shout out and subscribe. Subscribe to 11FS here on LinkedIn. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify or iTunes called FinTech Insider. And make sure you share this link. I haven't even done that. So here we go. I just told everybody to do it. I just did it. There you go. Just clicking that little share link on the bottom. It'll go out to everybody and they'll know you're watching because we're going to have a fantastic show today. So before we start, 3 news stories for the past 24 hours that I found to be important, and you should too. One of them, I'm going to add 4 real quick. I'll just say Marqeta is going to do an IPO. So Jason Gardner and team out in Oakland, and I believe they've also opened up an office in Denver, if I remember right. But a great shout out to Marqeta. Congratulations on them and Encino for both filing to do an IPO. All right, our first story, Forbes reports SoFi, the online lender, is taking another stab at becoming a bank, filing an application for a national bank charter with the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. The online lender, which first offered student loan refinancing online and has since branched into mortgages and personal loans, withdrew its application in 2017 after its former CEO, Mike Cagney, and other senior executives departed the company amid a sexual harassment scandal. Yeah, I remember those days. First reported by Business Insider, SoFi CEO Anthony told employees in an email the company thought long and hard about embarking on this path, and we're proud of what we've accomplished in the past 2.5 years to position ourselves to take this next critical strategic step in our development. SoFi, which has raised $2.3 billion since its inception in 2011, is among the more successful fintechs to crash on the scene in the wake of the Great Recession. You might also remember SoFi acquired Galileo. We had their founder, Clay Wilkes, on early on in this stream. So I think the fact that they're applying for a license isn't shocking anyone. SoFi is among the growing list of fintechs that have made moves to become a national bank. So in February, Lending Club, a trailblazer in online lending, made its entrance and it acquired Radius Bank, if you all remember that. Square, who we've all been waiting to go down this route, has gotten the nod by federal and state regulators to open a bank in Utah. And that was the path that Green Card, or it took way back in the day, if I remember. Not Green Card, oh hell, it'll come back to me on the prepaid side. Did the same thing about a bank. So space is getting interesting. We'll see what happens there. Second story is from the Charlotte Observer. I'm going to give Wells Fargo some credit for once and not give them a hard time. They report Wells Fargo has detailed plans Thursday to donate $400 million in processing fees it earned from the Paycheck Protection Program to an initiative it says will help small businesses recover from the impacts of COVID-19. In April, NPR reported the bank took in over $10 billion in fees from the federal government for handling the PPP, which is administered by the Small Business Administration. The bank announced its recovery effort, the Open for Business Fund, in a news release Thursday morning. The fund will work with nonprofits that provide capital, technical support, and programs for resiliency. So, for example, by helping a business pivot its way and pivot a supply chain would be one good example of it. So just short and sweet. Well done, Wells Fargo. Every now and then you do something right and you deserve a shout out. And finally, a story just for me. The Army Times reports the first woman to complete the Army Special Forces qualification course and move on to get a Green Beret tab graduated yesterday. As somebody who did go through infantry training and AIT, I can tell you my ass couldn't have even done Ranger School. So the fact that a woman has gone through and is now a newly minted Green Beret, and she's a National Guard soldier, which is even more damn impressive, will now report to a Special Forces group for assignment to an Operational Detachment Alpha, or they call an A-team. A breaking movement, not only for the Army, but for the entire military. She's not the first woman to complete the course. Then Captain Kathleen Wilder did this back in 1980, folks, although she wasn't permitted to graduate at the time because we were stupid shits. After Wilder filed a sex discrimination complaint, the Army determined that she had been wrongly denied graduation, and her military attorney walked through the ordeal, talked about with the Army Times that Wilder, a former military intelligence officer, was ultimately allowed to wear the Special Forces tab when it was created in 1983, continued to do so over her 28 career, where she retired as lieutenant colonel. In a somewhat related story, Fox News actor Tucker Carlson has escalated his criticism of Senator Tammy Duckworth, a Democrat from Illinois, lambasting the double amputee combat veteran as a coward, fraud, and moron on his second night of attacks against her on Fox News. On the Monday night edition of his primetime show, Carlson called Duckworth a deeply silly and unimpressive person who hates America. In 2004, Senator Duckworth lost both her legs as the Black Hawk helicopter she was co-piloting was shot down in Iraq. And I will repeat that. In 2004, Senator Duckworth lost both her legs as she was co-piloting a fucking Black Hawk helicopter in combat in Iraq. Tucker Carlson has also served his country by being a participant in the show Dancing with the Stars and never, ever, ever, ever serving a single day in the military. So the host of the 11 at Best breakfast show, Sam All, commented on the situation by stating, "Fuck you, Tucker Carlson." With that, let's bring in our guest. Hi, everybody. Today, we're very pleased to have Amanda Orson, who's the head of North America at Curve, on our show. We'll talk a little bit about her experience over the past few weeks when it comes to Wirecard, how Curve is completely awesome, and how Amanda is completely awesome. Hey, Amanda, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Fired up, I say.
Yeah, fan of Tucker Carlson, obviously, the Tucker. I almost wore a bow tie today in honor of that dumb shit. So, how's your couple of weeks been with the whole Wirecard debacle? You want to talk about that a little bit from your perspective?
Yeah, so for Curve as a global company, it's been a very busy couple of weeks, as I'm sure. Actually, your audience is U.S. specific, or should be more U.S. specific. Payments geeks will probably know that Wirecard has had some accounting trouble. Is my generous characterization.
That was really good. Some accounting trouble.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it their COO they still can't find? That fled the Philippines supposedly? Yeah,
it's going to be a movie. There's no way. The story just gets weirder and weirder as we go. So yeah, we found out. We knew that there was some accounting trouble going on with Wirecard, and we had already been taking some steps to when they delayed delivery of the audit initially. We'd already been taking some steps to move away, but we were very surprised to find out on the morning of June the 26th, that Friday morning, with about 2 hours notice, that the Financial Conduct Authority was going to suspend Wirecard's ability to do what it had been doing for us in the UK. And we very suddenly had to press pause and let everyone know, all of our existing customers, that they would no longer be able to use their Curve card. So that set off a very fast chain of events for the company involving every single business unit, from CX, our customer service people, to PR, obviously product, pay tech. We had to get everything turned back on for our customers like that, including meeting 2 of our OKRs for the back half of this year in about 40 hours.
It's amazing.
So that was the weekend of the 26th or 27th and 28th, I guess.
I know you and I were cutting on DMs as all this was unfolding. Yeah. And I remember, I think it was on a Friday, and you just said, this is going to be a fascinating weekend. And then I can't remember what time it was on Sunday, but you pinged me and said, we're good. We're done. And I remember thinking, holy shit, good for you. That is amazing.
All credit to the team. I mean, Shahar, our CEO, likes to say that you really don't know what you're capable of until you know what you're capable of. And the fantastic outcome from the Wirecard, I should say, it's not just Wirecard, but Wirecard and then FCA sort of dropping the hammer with very little notice, was that the team came together in absolutely spectacular fashion to deliver what is usually months worth of work. I mean, from the integration side to the due diligence side to the customer communication side. It is a long and usually very sort of tedious, meticulous process to change out your issuer and acquirer. And we did it in a weekend, and it was through the effort of absolutely everybody in the organization. There was no one that wasn't touched.
I mean, absolutely amazing. I mean, and you know, let's put it in a little bit of perspective. Part of your job, Amanda, with Curve is getting it ready for the U.S. market, right? Getting it set up to follow the success that you've had in the UK. So that means you have to go through and do due diligence on all your partners like you wouldn't believe, right? But it also means you're trusting on the audits of Accenture, EY, PwC, Deloitte, and everyone else who are auditing these companies. at the same time. I mean, that's reality.
It is. And yeah, the due diligence process is probably going to be a little bit more involved next time around. But what do you do? There's nothing that we had seen that would have roused suspicions until the delay of the audit.
I agree.
Taking some action.
Yeah, I mean, from personal experience, Veronica from Truist yesterday said, "Sam, one of these times I want you to list out all the jobs you had." No, Veronica, because there's too many. But at one point when I was in Europe, working with TSYS on the online side, so this is in the early 2000s, from a credit card standpoint, you have to have the legal right to access your statement at any time. Mm-hmm. So back in the day, we did this through PDFs, right? We'd make a tokenized call via API to go and pull your statement and show it online. Our PDF vendor called Friday afternoon to say, we're going bankrupt. And we're, thank you. And we're like, okay, wait a minute. We're like the largest card processor in the world, one of the largest globally. You're providing the PDFs for literally millions of customers, and you're not going to be around come Monday. And so, Amanda, I've been where you're at. I remember that experience where literally you're like, do we buy them? Do we, what do we do, right? Do we fund these folks? How do we float this? And I can tell you, we didn't get it done in 3 days, flat out. So that tells you how amazing the team is at Curve. And for those that don't know, because you have been on the show before, can you talk a little bit about what Curve is? What is the use case? What is the problem you're solving at Curve?
So Curve is an over-the-top platform. Basically, we're a payment card, an app that sits on top of your underlying funding cards. Really what we're trying to do is sort of rebundle your very fractured way of paying for and accessing your financial products.
And with a lot of success in the UK too, right? I mean,
correct.
Talk about that with plans to come into the US. Don't laugh at this question, but I do want to ask it. Why the US? Why did Curve target this as the market to come into?
I think it's a natural fit for its product. So the average US consumer probably has something between 5 to 7 different kinds of payment cards, many of which they probably don't even remember that they have because they're sitting in a drawer or a coffee mug somewhere. One of my favorite data points is that the average consumer that obtains a store card uses it one time, like 50%. So you start adding up all of those store cards plus your debit cards, your credit cards, and then any esoteric payment cards you might have, like an FSA or HSA benefit card. The product proposition just is a natural fit for this market.
Yeah, I think it is interesting, right? There are a lot of distinct differences between the UK and US. Sure. Consumers, there are. My personal opinion, and I think the data proves it out. Especially, I'd say Asia leads in the adoption of fintech from a consumer standpoint, being willing to do that. If you don't believe me, 4 years ago, I would say cash was pretty common in Asia. Now, especially in China, you never see cash anymore. Everything's gone mobile. In the UK, pretty good at adopting, hence you see the success of companies like Amanza, Starling, Tide, and Nutmeg, and others. Here in the US, I think a little bit slower to adopt, but I think COVID has been an accelerant when it comes to wanting digital-only solutions.
We strongly agree.
Yeah, I think that's just a given. It's been an accelerant for so many things, but I mean, don't you, Amanda? I just think that this shift to wanting all your solutions digital on your device is pretty much the norm now.
I agree. I think it's going to take a little while for the US to go from where we are today to being digital first. But then once we go from digital first, digital only is going to follow pretty quickly.
Yeah. And Amanda, you won't be shocked. I have a question from Siddharhar already. Hey, Siddharhar. Says, as I understand it, the Curve card serves as a card forwarding service to another actual card that belongs to the user. You're like the Google Voice of cards. He said that with a smile face. If so, this is a genius idea, which opens up all sort of possibilities for automatic card selection to optimize user rewards, manage credit scores, limits, everything else. So 2 questions. So I'll give you the first one. Does injection of Curve card change economics for the merchant and issuer?
So that's a great question. We are actually 2 transactions, so it's not a pass-through, meaning that we are actually the merchant on the other side of it. Also, implicitly, all of our transactions are CNP, or card not present. So yes, it probably does.
So can you explain the importance of the card not present aspect of that for people that are hard heavy? Because that is significant, big folks.
Yeah, since we're the merchant in the middle and the card is being presented as card not present, there is larger interchange involved. So that would definitely impact it. The benefit that we have is by being a merchant, we don't have to cut individual deals with all of the underlying issuers, which means that we can adopt the long tail. That is a very onerous process. It takes years and a lot of commercial negotiation by being able to sort of interact with everybody from day one, especially in the US where we have, I haven't seen the latest stat, but something like 5,700 FDIC insured banks. Being able to service all of them immediately is a huge enablement win for us.
So I think that answers the second question, but I'll let you expand a little bit. Siddharth said, what is Curve's moat? Why couldn't Citi or Chase do the same thing? Which you pretty much kind of outlined.
So I'm going to try and say this in as diplomatic way as possible. I think
did you see how I started the show?
Okay.
Say whatever the hell you want. Come on.
All right. I think that if you're looking to incumbents to improve things, you're always going to get incremental improvements. I think if you're looking for someone to really shake things up and make something new, innovative, it's going to have to come from the outside. Great example is Venmo. Would the banks have actually created Zelle were it not for Venmo? No. They had to create Zelle. They had to collaborate. They had to come together with a product because they wanted to service customers in the same way. But it was Venmo.
He said, in my humble opinion, although they are great, he's talking about the likes of Starling, Monzo, Chima, and 26, they're all the iTunes of banking. So here you go. You ready for this, Amanda? So those would be the iTunes of banking. Curve is the first to reach Spotify level. That's an interesting take. Good for you, Ollie.
I want to know if you've seen our pitch deck, but we agree. What we actually think is happening right now is a rebundling of finance. And that's where we analogize ourselves to being the Spotify for financial products for exactly that reason.
Okay, Ollie, in the comments, tell me if you knew that. I want to know if he actually knew that or if he came up with that on his own.
I'll pay you later for the softball.
That's it. No, I love seeing the early pitch decks for companies, by the way. I really do, tech companies. To see the reason for that is to see how much they pivoted, right? I mean, because we all do that. You come up with an initial thesis, you start going through, those in the early pitch decks when you're trying to do your raise, and then you get there. But Amanda, you're a little bit different. When did you join Curve? I don't think it was that long ago.
No, so I actually joined Curve in September of last year, and initially was there for helping them sort out what city to put the company in. And now, obviously, I'm actually helping to lead the expansion for Curve in the United States.
And what kind of convinced you to join? Was it the team? Is it the blend of the team and the mission? I mean, what was it?
Absolutely. I would say that, one, it was definitely Shahar. Shahar has a very clear vision for this. So going back to the Spotify analogy, I think that he was very smart and saw where the puck was going before a lot of the rest of the marketplace did. The team is fantastic. Like, I can't say enough good things about the team. I felt very strongly that this team was remarkable before 2 or 3 weeks ago, and now we know it, and so does the rest of the world. I mean, we showed the resilience and the ability to sort of come together and work cooperatively with one another when our backs were to the wall, and we could have had something really disastrous for our customers. We absolutely pulled through it in record speed. It's been a fantastic experience.
And Amanda, I like that word experience because I want to touch on that a little bit. So you and I both have a military background. Amanda, if you didn't see the last time Amanda was on the show, she went to the Citadel, which is a military college in Charleston, South Carolina. Beautiful, Charleston, South Carolina. And Amanda was the battalion commander her senior year, which meant she had, 500 freaking 20-year-old morons, politely mean it, 20-year-old young men running around that she had to wrangle and keep in charge. This concept of crisis leadership, I definitely want to touch on. I'm not going to talk about politics or anything like that. I just want to touch on the concept of what you went through just over the weekend itself. I think you see the true nature and culture of a company when you're faced by something like that. How did you all rally the troops? I'm going to be blunt here. How did you do it to say, look, this isn't the end of us. This is just the beginning. We could actually make a statement here.
So we have a strong leadership team. And I don't knock that, but it actually wasn't the leadership team. I think it was the sense of ownership of every individual that participated. That strong sense of ownership is why. Because if it was left to 6 or 20 individuals, it would never have happened. There's just too many parts of the business. Like again, from customer service to branding comms to engineering to pay tech to product ops to PR, like all of those touch points. Everyone had a very strong sense of mission, recognized how important this moment was to the company and to the company's future, and strongly took ownership of that, to the point where even in the US, because we weren't as intimately involved in the piping, we were still, several of my colleagues that happen to be in the US right now, even if they're not necessarily working for Curve US, were sitting there and doing transactions, trying ways to break things on Saturday and Sunday night to prove concepts and see how hard would react in another country. Everyone took ownership, and that's really what speaks to the strength of the team.
So Ollie Patterson, one, said nope, he didn't know that you'd done the Spotify thing. So Ollie, we'll get you a Curve t-shirt or something. 2, he said, look, I use my Curve card for everything, and then maybe once a week use Time Machine to sort out the transactions. I am not familiar with Time Machine. Ollie, Amanda, do you know Time Machine?
Yeah, it's a go back in time feature. So basically, you can take a transaction, and if you would rather that it was reallocated to a different funding card, you can change that.
Yeah, you talked about that before. I love that feature. So can you go through that one more time? How does that work?
Sure. So go back in time is a feature for Curve where you can take a transaction you've already processed, literally in app, reallocate it to a different funding card that's already uploaded to your Curve card.
So you can maximize points. You can maximize anything that you had with that. That's really smart.
I think the optimizations are as diverse as they are individual, or to the individual. Here in the US, I definitely think that we're going to see, because we're so reward centric, Curve's value prop is also going to lean heavily towards helping people optimize and maximize rewards, points, miles, probably better interest rates, the whole gamut, because it's a very different environment here. But one of the things that we saw early on during the lockdown, we opened up the go back in time window from 14 to 90 days. I'll be corrected later if I'm wrong on that one. And it was a material benefit because a lot of people approaching lockdown were furloughed or maybe laid off, and it allowed them to stay more liquid. So they were able to reallocate things that they spent on and take it out of maybe a checking or debit account and put it on something else.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Sidhar's was asking, what's your revenue model? So where do you make the money?
Sure. So Interchange is obviously a big part of it. Membership fees. So we have a free and a metal product, or a premium product. Actually, in the UK, we have 3, but free and metal are the 2 premium products. And soon, which I would love to talk more about, or actually I would love for you guys to talk to Paul, our head of credit, on soon we'll also have Curve Credit in market.
So a couple of things. I'm trying to keep up with the comments now because they're flying. AJ said, I need to use Curve really badly. I got $12,000 in expenses, over 200 transactions over 9 states in a week, and I haven't filled out the expenses yet. Yes, you do. And you're just like me and everybody else. All right, Kurt at Tab Bank. Love Kurt, president of Tab Bank. Does your roadmap include allocating the funding cards automatically in concert with the PFM?
So at the moment, it does not. It's certainly something that we could explore later, but at the moment, no. It's the individual's choice.
Yeah, and Kurt is somebody who I would definitely, Amanda, if you don't know Kurt, I'm going to introduce you after this call, because you should. I could definitely see how that would work. I love the funding card component of that. So if you're not familiar with Tab Bank, everybody, actually started by truckers back in the day. So Bank for Truckers. So you talk about a funding card or a fuel card and rewards and everything else. Kurt, I can see where your head was going, and I can agree. I could definitely see that. And I also think that what's brilliant about Curve for the US, and you mentioned this, Amanda, is the rewards concept for the neobanks and the challenger banks that are coming over from the UK to the US, like Amonzo, for example, or N26 or others. You're going to have to find a hook. And in the US, I do think it's rewards. I will flat out say that, right? It's going to be some sort of loyalty and rewards, because it's not the travel component and stuff like that.
I completely agree. So the product, one of the big benefits to the Curve UK metal card is 0 FX fees. That's not going to matter here. We have to find and reinvent new kinds of benefits for the free and the paid versions of the Curve card, which we're doing in real time with our market research team. But I completely agree with you. I think that it will be my strong hypothesis, until someone proves me otherwise, is that it will be rewards driven, and Curve is going to help people optimize for that, which I think is its own value prop. Like that's enough. In addition to all of the other things below it, including being able to tie up all of our George Costanza wallet cards.
All right, so one last question. This comes from Mimi Joy. Hey, Mimi, could you please say more about the higher interchange fee you mentioned earlier?
Sure. So, I mean, basically, and is US specific. Yep. There are different interchange rates in the UK than there are in the US. There is a higher interchange fee for CNP, but it's still not the highest. There are still more. The interchange that we're looking at is really just to get to something that looks contribution margin neutral and then positive to fund rewards. We're actually not trying to build a business based on strictly interchange arbitrage. That's probably building a castle on sand. Yes. What we do want to do is to be able to stay very customer centric and give back as much of that interchange to the consumer as possible. So we want them to be able to optimize for rewards by allocating their spend appropriately, however that might be. And frankly, to be as simple as possible. I definitely think there's a trend towards minimalism by having one card and being able to leave the house with just that. I think that that's a huge advantage. But two, to actually fund rewards such that you might be able to double up or get some incremental lift on top of your underlying rewards. That's the goal.
All right, Amanda, I lied. One more question because it's a good one. It's from David Hall over at PSCU. I believe that's right, David, if I remember right. He says, by all cards, does that include both credit and debit for Visa and MasterCard as a funding source?
At the moment, yes, it does.
Okay. There you go, David. Good question. I didn't want to let that one fly. Folks, we're out of time. Believe it or not. Man, this flies by. So, Amanda, how is Kurt at Tab Bank going to get a hold of you? What's the best way to reach out to you and also to learn more about Curve?
So Curve is definitely curve.com. We're currently in waitlist in the United States. So if you'd like to be added to the waitlist, you should see a hello bar at the top of curve.com if you have a US IP address. If not, it's curve.com/US. You can get a hold of me via Twitter. That's probably the very best way to reach out to me.
Same with me. If you want to talk to me, folks, at Samall, it's a good place. You can email me, sam@11fs.com. Email producers at breakfastshow@11fs.com, especially if you have an idea for a guest or someone that has come on. Amanda, thanks for doing this today. Everyone else, please remember, it's been a ton of fun. We love doing these every day, but my daughter Alex will not let me use her room every day. I'm sorry. I know you love the surfboard. She chewed me out. So we're going to move to once a week. So again, we'll do the show, same time, 10:30 here on LinkedIn Live every Wednesday. We'll put out who the guests are going to be. If you're up at 3:30 in the morning, you want to see David doing his show over in the UK, same place, man. Just follow us on 11FS. Everybody, thanks for being part of this. Have a great weekend. On Monday, I'll be joined by a good friend of mine, Casey Goodman, up in, I think she's in Toronto, if I remember right. Love her. She's a trip. Everyone else, again, thanks for being here, and we will see you, not on Monday, I said that wrong, on Wednesday. All right, Wednesday. Thanks, cool. Everybody.
Thank you.
Of course, I'm like,